Hello, welcome to the Comic Book Club. I am your host, Joelle Jones, and with me, as always, is our very own quarantine dancing queen, Amanda Comey. How are you doing, Amanda?
I'm all right. As long as the coffee supplies don't run out, we'll be good.
Yeah, I know. Do you have enough toilet paper?
Yeah, we had plenty of toilet paper before this all started, but now I'm concerned that just having a normal amount of toilet paper, it's been like 2 weeks already. We might run out in a week or two.
Well,
And
there's
I'm like, there still isn't any in the stores. So now I'm starting to worry, like, will there be toilet paper in like 2 weeks when we do eventually need it again?
there's always leaves. So anyway,
I think I've also got a couple of copies of Spawn that I pulled out of the dining room.
oh, shots fired. So my son. Did I tell you my son is starting to recognize like artists now, even though he don't know names?
Oh, cool.
So like in Mortal Kombat, the video game, right? One of the DLC characters is Spawn. He just came out, right? So I'm sitting there playing, and he's playing with me, and he's looking at Spawn, and he says, "You know what? You know who Spawn remind me of? Like who, son? Venom. Like son, that's very astute. They were created by the same person."
Wow.
And like he had no frame of reference for Spawn. He's never heard of Spawn, but he could look at Spawn and like see like the similarities between him and Venom. You know what I'm saying? He recognized those similarities. And I like
Yeah,
that.
that's really cool.
Like that's very astute. They were both created by Todd McFarlane, so that's probably why. And now he thinks Spawn is cool because he's an 11-year-old boy, and all 11-year-old boys think Spawn is cool. Wait till you read those stories, though. Um, you remember when people used like I remember my brother bought like 4 copies of Spawn #1.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, is just from having like gone through like backstock boxes, or I had a few stores that would do something where it was like you could pay like $2 and just get like a mystery paper bag full of like 50 old comics. And like there would be like 3 copies of Spawn #1 in every single one of those bags.
Well, Amanda, as you know, back in the day, speculation in the early '90s was really big, so everybody thought they was gonna get rich
Yeah.
off these comics. And I remember my brother having 4 copies and him taking them to the store, like maybe like a year later. It's okay, how much for these? And they were just like $2 a piece. He's like, what? And you could actually hear his heart break a little
Hmm.
bit. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not worth anything. Like no.
Hmm.
And it's funny too, cause like that still carries over now, cause he's like 12 years older than me, right? And for the life of him, he can't understand why I open my toys, and he's just like, well, like these will be worth something one day. I'm like, no, they're not. Like I like those Spawn comics didn't teach you anything. Most stuff ain't worth shit most of the time. Like it's just not.
Yeah.
Like, so Amanda, speaking of the speculation market that crashed the comic book
We're going to talk
industry.
about other bad investments.
Well, no. We're gonna get to that. That one, I want to end on. I want to end the news on that one because at least we can laugh at that. But Amanda, it seemed like we won't have. It seemed like the comic book industry is like in dire straits right now. Have you been paying attention to this at all?
Um, I don't know if it's in dire straits. I think it's just stopping temporarily.
A lot of comic book stores are saying they might have to close permanently if this stoppage lasts longer than say a month,
Hmm.
maybe 2. Because comic book stores in general, I don't want to say like they the type of business that barely make it, but it's a niche market, right? There's not many of them as it is, and I'm pretty sure they make okay money. It's kind of a small business that seems to can't take like really big lulls, and it seems to me that like if Diamond are not shipping comics, they say they're stopping. You know what I'm saying? And like Marvel and DC can't distribute their own comics. What are these shops gonna do for 2 or 3 months if they can't get comics and they still got rent to pay and lights to have on and all that type of stuff?
Well,
and
see,
some.
what I'm seeing is that the comic book stores have several different kinds of expenses. And if they're not having to pay for new stock and they're not having to pay employees to be there selling it, they've just cut out a significant portion of their expenses because people weren't going to be coming out to the stores anyways right now.
You'd be surprised. Have you seen the news? But yeah, you're right. Yeah, yeah.
But I'm just saying the store in our area, they had already switched to they would do curbside pickup if you really wanted. They were going to switch to delivery. They're in the process of setting up a web store so that you can buy their comics online and they'll deliver them to you. If they also had to be paying employees to be in the store and be paying for books that were delivered that they couldn't sell because no one was in the stores, they wouldn't have had any time or resources to pivot and adjust their strategy.
Okay.
So this is saving them not having to pay for the books that they can't sell is the only thing that's going to help them. They were definitely going to go out of business if the books kept shipping.
But if there's no new, okay, so I've seen like no, you're right, but at the same time,
Like a lot of stores will go out of business, but this will pausing everything will let some of the stores collect themselves and move on.
well, the scary thing is I don't think enough is pausing. Like that's the thing, right? Like yeah, like you could. So from what I've seen, right, this actually made the Bleeding Cool. We're gonna talk about Bleeding Cool a couple of times, right?
Okay.
Rich Johnson over there actually would like wrote an article about like a comic book shop owner that I follow. Like I listen to his podcast. His name is Ryan Higgins. I listen to his podcast called The Comic Conspiracy, right? But he's like a prominent comic book owner in the Bay Area, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, if we don't have new comics, he was like, yeah, I could sell old comics. Like, you know what I'm saying? He was saying that, like, I could do curbside pickup. I can do delivery if need be, right?
Yeah.
But but the majority of comic book readers
Yeah.
are middle age and they just want the new shit. And, like, if they don't have new shit, they're not going to buy old shit. And basically, he was like, you know what I'm saying? Comic readership is so fragile. If they go a month and a half, 2 months without like new comics, those people may not come back when all this is over with to begin with.
Right.
And like he actually had an idea, and I want to run this by you, see how this sounds to you, because some people liked it, some people didn't, and he like, look, just release the new comics digitally, and just have us sell like basically have us sell like the digital codes. Is basically what he was saying. Have us sell the digital codes. Then when everything opens back up, they can get a free physical copy. Because he was just like at this point, you know what I'm saying? He might be okay, but he said
Yeah.
he know a lot of stores that may not be, and hell, he may not be okay if it goes on for too damn long. And I'm breaking this all up is I think Marvel and DC are billion-dollar companies, or at least owned by billion-dollar companies, right? These stores are the lifeblood of the industry. Like you know what I'm saying? I don't think the industry would survive without these stores because most people who read comics don't read them digitally. It only makes up about 10% of the market, right? So like these stores are very important. They don't have spinner rats in like grocery stores anymore, or at Walmart or at the drugstore. So like you can only buy your single issue copy comics mostly from comic book shops. I don't know how many comic book shops it is. I'm assuming it's not that many, but Marvel and DC could prop these stores up at least a little bit till this is over with. They're flush with cash. And I guarantee you it probably wouldn't hurt their bottom line too damn much.
It absolutely wouldn't.
Now, let's say there's 1,000 stores. That just throwing the number out there. Let's say there's 1,000 like real comic book stores, right? and let's just say all their rent is like 1,500 a piece, and yeah, I know. Huh.
Oh my gosh. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
I
I'm
know.
sorry. We just live in very, very different places.
We do. But no, I'm lowballing. I'm lowballing on purpose, right? Okay, let's say 3,000. Let's say 3,000, like rent.
Okay, just FYI, I've been doing commercial retail pricing in my city, and my comic book store is probably paying $5,000 a month for two different locations.
A piece.
Yeah. So they're
Okay,
paying probably 10,000 total a month. But yeah.
okay. So okay, let's hold up. Cause what's that mean? What's let's say 5,000 times 1,000? What 500,000? Something like that.
Mhm.
Something like that. Like they could do that. They could prop these stores up. Like if they really want to, they could prop these stores up without no like hey you like no payback from the stores for like years if they wanted to. Not saying they should, but like this industry like you need these stores, and neither one of them have said shit. You know what I'm saying? And
Well,
like
it's yeah, it's similar to I see people saying, like, oh, like landlords shouldn't make people pay rent right now. And then everyone's like, oh, but like the landlord has to pay the mortgage. And I'm like, well, the bank could also not make the landlord pay their mortgage, but you're not hearing anything from the banks.
right.
It's the same thing. Marvel and DC are the banks here, and they could also reach out and help people, but they have no incentive to do that, and they have enough inertia that they'll survive no matter what, almost.
Right.
Unless we get the guillotines ready fast.
But no, okay, sorry, that's 5 million. You know what though? That's a pin. Look, fucking, a Batman movie makes that in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. But I would also say at the same time, I don't think the comic book stores are that important to Marvel or DC. You just said it. They can make that amount of money in like a day with a movie. So it would be, on the one hand, it would be trivial to them to give that money to comic book stores. But on the other hand, they don't even need them. Like they're not.
But you gotta sell comics. What they gonna do? Get out the comic game? Because that's the only way you can sell your comics is through these stores.
Sure. Why do they need to sell comics at all?
Amanda, we are not going down this darkest timeline, okay?
Yeah, I know. But I'm just saying, like from Marvel and DC's point of view, they're mostly movie companies now.
True. I just feel like the people at Marvel and DC, if the people who actually run Marvel, the people who actually like like the the editors and chiefs and shit like that, I believe they should say something or do something. I
Yeah.
understand that they're beholden to Disney and Warner Brothers respectively, but I feel like I know the executives at AT&T and Disney may not care, but I feel like the people that actually work in the industry that actually run these businesses would probably care. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm sure the writers care. I'm sure the writers, the editors, the artists care that these shops don't go away. I don't know. I don't know. Everything seems bad all the times right about now, and I just hope that this thing that we love don't die on the vine. And this coming from a guy who don't even buy physical comics.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that frustrates me the most is that unlike other activities like yoga or something where you normally do it in a group with other people, comic books are like not even a thing that you do. I mean, we do it together, we talk about them together, but like you don't have to be in a room with anybody else. I mean, isn't that even the stereotype of like the loner nerd who's into comic books?
Right.
So it seems ridiculous that something which is a solitary activity takes such a hit when we're supposed to be doing solitary activities. That's the thing that's killing me is I'm like, okay, so it's, in Maryland, they had to shut down all non-essential businesses because there was still one bar in my town that was having drink specials, right?
Right.
every other bar had closed down their dining room and was doing pickup only, and this one place is trying to get people in, so they had to say, okay, everybody has to shut down. So I think that frustrates me. That frustrates me the most, is that I feel like there should have been a way to not just have to close all the stores to business.
Right. So I don't know, man. I just, again, and a lot of this may be on like just comic book readers, since comic book readers, despite all of Marvel and DC like efforts, skew older, and like they're look, comic book people are kind of hipsters in a weird way, because
Yeah.
because cause they want physical copies, right? And I'm like, and they're just like, so like, if they can't get their physical copies, they don't want it, and I think that is like maybe a mistake. I don't know. Like I said, I have no answers, but I just feel like Marvel and DC should be able to do more to help these. I want to talk about that, because look, man, what happened? What happened if it really does happen? What the hell are we gonna do for this show? What are we going to do for this show if they just shit? If they just like, we out. It's all done. Turn the lights off on your way out. Okay, so Amanda, let's talk about something
The
far
other
more.
kind of depressing stuff.
Oh my! The New Warriors are coming back. The New Warriors are a '90s team, and I think they was invented in the '90s with they had like a bunch of extreme superheroes. In a way, like it was a very '90s comic, right? You know what I'm saying? It was very much of its time. A lot of those characters didn't survive, or at least didn't survive in their '90s incarnations, right? You know what I'm saying? Like Wolverine has basically been the same for 40 years, Cyclops, so forth and so on, right? But like a lot of the New Warriors had like a couple of makeovers to make them fit for like a modern sensibility. Anyway, in that spirit, I guess they have new characters that they're introducing. Marvel has always been about diversity and like being ahead of the curve, and that's a lot to their credit, sometimes to their detriment, because sometimes I think it's ham-fisted. Well, Amanda, I think these new characters fall on the ham-fisted side of things, to say the least. What do you think?
um, I mean, so it's funny. It's so rare when you see something and you really, really can't tell if it's real or not, because it looks like a joke, but it's executed like well enough that it would be way too much effort for the joke. Um, like I looked at this and I was like, no, Comicsgate doesn't have anyone with that much talent involved.
Right. It's like an inside job.
Yeah, I part of me also wondered if like maybe in the past, because I know that I know that the original X-Men were frequently a metaphor for like homosexuality or other minority status. And I was like, well, maybe when the X-Men were introduced, people were like, wow, how obvious, right?
I don't
And
think
then I'm
so.
like, no, it wasn't like this. I'm sure it wasn't like this.
It wasn't. I mean, Rich Johnson from Bleeding Cool actually wrote an article like that, where he was talking, and he tried to be cute and make it seem like he was talking about like the New Warriors, but really he was talking about the 1975 X-Men like reboot, like giant size X-Men reboot that everybody loves, with
Hmm.
Storm, Nightcrawler, where they became like a little more international and about people of color and different nationalities. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, that's not the same thing. He's trying to be cute, but that's not the same thing. That's like It would be the same thing if like Storm name wasn't Storm. It was just like, I don't know, Jigaboo Queen or some shit like that.
Oh,
Because
no.
Jigaboo is a negative name and she wants to take it back and make it strong. I don't know. You get what I'm saying? Look, there's ways to do this. In fact, we're reading Catwoman today, right? There's ways
Yes.
to update stuff without it being like,
Yeah.
So look, okay, so uh, we're gonna go to the names of these characters.
Sure.
There's B negative, a living vampire, and he's a goth. There,
Actually, I think he's an emo.
that's right, emo. Mm. There's screen time, Amanda, and he's a mean except super teen who does everything internet. He got VR glasses. There's Trailblazer, who
I'm sorry, just a moment. Screen time reminds me of Johnny Mnemonic, but keep going.
yeah, a little bit. And you know what? Johnny Mnemonic was a terrible movie. So, we have Trailblazer. A I, okay, I know like to say overweight is kind of offensive, but a big girl, a big girl who's black, whose powers is to
Is she black? Is she
yes.
also supposed to be indigenous?
Oh, maybe she is indigenous. Maybe she is indigenous.
She could be both.
She could be both. And she has a magic backpack that she can pull stuff from other dimensions out of. That seems okay. And now look, those are bad. Those are terrible, right? But here's the ones that I think most people
Well,
find.
and also, if you had an existing team and just added one of these characters, it for like a one issue thing, it might be fine. Okay,
Right.
keep going.
And of course, then there's the Snowflake and Safe Space.
uh,
So Amanda, what do you think of Snowflake and Safe Space?
um, I feel like I almost feel like this was created by like a computer to try and throw as many minority woke culture phrases into like one character description
Yes.
without any sort of human intervention to go, this is not possible or desired. Um, I mean, yeah, there's just I'm still speechless. I try to start talking and then I look back at the pictures and I can't talk again.
And this is that thing where like I seen it and like again I'm always kind of constantly check myself. Am I just being like an old man? Like you know what I'm saying? Because you don't want to be that, right? I kept like looking at this. I'm like, nah, I don't think so. I think this is kind of stupid. And like it's how can I say this? It's always about white people that do dumb shit like shit created by like actual like marginalized groups is never like this. This is written by hold on, let me get this guy name right because everybody should know him. Daniel Kibblesmith. But that's a really white name, Amanda. Daniel
Wow.
Kibblesmith. He wrote for the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. He is a 38-year-old. I'm thinking straight white man. He's definitely a 38-year-old white dude. So like he's clearly not in the age bracket to be writing
Yeah,
this.
he
And
thinks that being on Twitter and being familiar with this stuff is enough to, yeah.
and it's like his reasoning for each of these characters, if you watch it, is just like I know the new word is cringe, and I don't like using it, but that's the best way I could put it. It's just like, no, dude, no. It's as you would say, and I know you just call him Steve Buscemi, but like, hello, it's very hello fellow kids, right?
Yeah.
So like I do the taste test. I take this to my son and my nephew, right? Because they're both 11. My son's about to be 12 this year, and they seem like they're supposed to be the target audience for this. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? My son was not having it, nor my nephew.
Yeah.
They were just like, no, like what the hell is this? Like that's the thing. They don't even look cool. Is like the other thing. You know what I'm saying? They don't even look like they're like awesome. Like you know what I'm saying?
Like no one's gonna cosplay this. Captain Marvel looked so cool that people were dressing up as her before the comics even came out.
Right.
This is not a case of that.
Well, and like clearly these costumes are definitely cosplay bait. You know what I'm saying? Because there's like
Yeah.
Marvel thing now. Like ever since Captain Marvel and Spider Gwen took off just off pictures, like
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying? They tend to make characters, new characters now that can be easily cosplayed. So they definitely want people to cosplay these characters, but they're so bad, Amanda. Like I even read a comment like who does this, who approved this, who thought this was a good idea, and like it just goes to what I always say, trying to say is like they speak about diversity and having diverse voices and having diverse creators, and they make all these minority characters, and it's all invented by like this white dude, and like it's like if this does do one positive thing, it brings like the toxic Compass Gate people and
Hmm.
the and like the left leaning comic book people. It brings them together because nobody seems to like this.
Yeah.
So like if nothing else, it brings both groups together.
Yeah, maybe this was a ploy just to get the comic skaters back into the mainstream, so that they could see they could see all of the normal comic book readers going, yeah, this because this is what Comicsgate was complaining about.
Right, exactly. Like this.
And then Marvel finally explicitly did it, and they can see the reaction. They can be like, oh, okay, so the other stuff was us mostly projecting. Readers will respond when it goes too far, and this is it clearly going too far.
This is going way left.
Yeah, I don't think this level of non-nuance bodes well for what the storylines might be.
And you know what my problem is with all this too is the fact that like you have a set, and I can't believe I'm actually defending these characters now, because these are usually a set of characters that I'm not like a big fan of in general. You got the champions,
Hmm.
who's like all teenagers, and like it's like Camilla Harris, Miles Morales, Sam Alexander, who I think is Hispanic, even though with that last name. So you already have like a popular teenage multiracial group that most people are behind. And you know what? It doesn't. They don't have like they're not like they don't have really messed up names and look really crazy. So I don't understand the purpose behind this new group, especially if you're going to still have it written by like a middle aged white man. I don't get it, Amanda.
Yeah.
That's all you got for me. Uh,
I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, like we don't really have a storyline here. We don't really have. I mean, I saw this stuff and I didn't dig into it too much. So like the why, I still don't know why. This is like a situation no one was asking for this and it's being given to us anyways. Um, like I said, this was what Comicsgate was imagining was happening.
well, you know, when the comic book industry starts back up, we see how this goes. You know what? The comic book, you know what? I like to think that if the comic book industry does end, I will hope they blame the coronavirus and these new warriors. I really hope so. I really.
Yeah, I hope comic book industry comes back for long enough for us to prove that it was the New Warriors and not the coronavirus.
So Amanda, we are talking Catwoman. Catwoman. God damn it,
I
Catwoman.
wish it was Catwomen.
Well, there is at some point. Today we are talking Catwoman, written and drawn by Joelle Jones. It premiered July 4th of 2018, and it reads: following the near-miss wedding with Batman, Catwoman hits the streets to expose a copycat who's pulling off heists around Gotham City. As Selina cracks the whip on her former criminal cohorts, she's attracted unwanted attention from Gotham's most dangerous groups. So, Amanda, what do you think of Catwoman by Joelle Jones?
Um, I I haven't read any Catwoman solo stories before.
Uh huh.
This was great.
Yes.
I still don't know if I would read Catwoman written by someone else though.
Okay.
Um, I there were so many. Okay, so I remember when this book was announced, I compared the cover of this first issue with the cover of the new 52 issue 0 Catwoman,
Right.
where she's like the weird butt boobs arching pose that like was demonstrably not physically possible. I think I saw somebody like 3D printed it to prove that it wasn't possible. Uh, and I just compared the two covers and I was like, wow, I'm like, I can't imagine why, why I suddenly want to read Catwoman. Even just the like the first cover where she's wearing the wedding dress. And first of all, the wedding dress is like gorgeous with like the black lace detail.
Right.
And she's sitting in her bedroom and she's got the cats all around her. She's got the Catwoman costume in the background. Even just the fact that like the screen she's sitting in front of is like an Art Deco print. And like she has a manicure. Like she got her nails done and of course they're black. And like I don't know, there's just like every little detail about it. I'm like, yes. I'm like, she is so cool and sexy and smart and awesome. And I love everything about Catwoman now in one picture.
Yes. I don't even know what to say. I think you summed it up perfectly. And that's just our. We ain't even talking about the story yet. Like,
Well, and I mean, we talked when we read the Byrne Superman stuff.
right.
We talked about how Lois Lane's clothing
Yes.
was such an important part of telling you who she was as a woman and projecting like a sense of confidence and power. I'm like, this is absolutely like everything that Catwoman wears is so perfect for her style and personality and also like in theme. And I mean, and things like, okay, so you can see the manicure in this picture. Like there are other pictures where she's holding things and it's like, yeah, she's always like,
Put together
she's just
well.
immaculate. She's always put together. And part of that is, that's just so fun.
And you can honestly see why Batman will fall for her. Like you can honestly, like, oh yeah, like this might be the first comic book character that I feel is out my league, even in my fantasies.
um, yeah, she definitely gives off an air of like she can take care of herself. She doesn't, which is the cat part of Catwoman, right?
Right. It
Is the confidence and like the tendency to chaos while remaining independent.
is and is and like there's this balance between like this aristocratic air and street smarts that is like really cool. You know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
clearly she's a rich lady. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And she carries herself like a rich lady, but there's this edge to her at the same time. Where like shit gets gnarly with the shits. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And like there's a very hard balance to do.
yeah.
Cause like when she's training the girls, and then we just jumping all over the place, right?
Hmm.
And she's like, "You are touching my shit. Put down my expensive champagne and get away from my very expensive trinkets." Like,
Yeah.
but at the same time, she was about ready to break one. She was about ready to break like the fat girl's arm at the same time.
Um, I mean, I think she really reminds me, I would almost say this is like a female James Bond
Right. Okay.
in sort of capturing that like put together, confident, aristocratic feel, but also like the, you know, understanding how the world really works and being comfortable in almost any environment.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, like I definitely got like a female James Bond or maybe Atomic Blonde vibe a few
Yes.
times.
Yes.
Or maybe another way to describe it would be like what if it was a comic book about the woman James Bond hooked up with and not James Bond himself?
Yeah, James Bond just a boring dude that she just left. Yeah,
Yeah.
which you could probably call Bruce Wayne that, huh?
Yep. Yep.
It's funny too because I wasn't happy with this comic. Like when
Okay.
I first heard about it, because I really wanted Batman and Catwoman to get married,
Yeah.
and I felt like when it didn't happen in issue 50, I knew it was going to happen eventually. Because I've been around the block a few times with comic book marriages, comic book weddings never go well. I think there might have been two in all of history that's ever went off without a hitch.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, well, shit, maybe they will never get back together if she has like this comic book. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh man. But like, it's so good though. Like, it's so well written. Like,
Well,
Joelle.
and we see that she's not completely over it herself.
Right, right.
Like, it's not like this book is proceeding pretending that she was never engaged and planning to get married. Like, she has the ring. She still thinks about it. She moved to this new city to get away from Gotham.
And
She's very much going through a breakup.
and like, this is gonna sound like a silly question. Joelle Jones is a woman, correct?
Yes.
Okay. This is what I find when stuff is written by actual women, right?
Yep.
They actual women make room for men. When feminist characters are written by men, the first thing they do is shit all over men. It's a very subtle difference, but
Mm-hmm.
it's something I notice. It's like when a male character writes strong females, the first thing they kind of do is make the strong female kind of, I guess man bashing ain't the right word, but like, help me out, man. What I'm trying to say, not man bashing, but just like, I don't need no man, and like no man can tell.
They I feel like when a man writes a feminist character, I feel like they feel like they need to prove that she's feminist
Yeah,
by giving her an obvious early on example of a man to righteously bash or get frustrated with, or some example. They feel like they need to explain it to you instead of just letting it be.
right, exactly. And like what I find is when women write other women, right, it's never like that, right? It's like, yes, you do have the obligatory man, like there's some asshole man that think you're weak, right? But it's never like, I don't need men. It's always like, I don't need some type of man, but men are pretty cool, and that's kind of like her thing, right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, I think a great example is there's a throwaway scene where she's in a jewelry store and the jeweler won't let her try something on because he says that it's too expensive for a young woman and that maybe if her husband came back with her.
yeah,
And she just makes a face and then leaves. And you're like, oh, she might come back and rob you later. But like, she doesn't, she doesn't go on like a tirade there. She doesn't like do, I feel like a male writer would have approached the end of that scene differently.
right. And she still misses Bruce, right? It's not like, oh,
Yeah.
Bruce. It's not like Bruce is stupid or dumb. She even a couple of misses like, I'm not a detective, but there's far better men I know that are
Mm-hmm.
good at it. You know what I'm saying? And like even her sort of kind of love interest in this, right? You know what I'm saying? So it's never like she don't need a man. She just don't need a man right now.
Yeah.
And like I appreciate that, you know what I'm saying, and it's one of those things where maybe that's why we should have more women writers, right? You know what I'm saying, just throwing that out there,
Yeah.
you know, and maybe more black writers so we don't get safe space and Cucklo, whatever the fuck their names are. uh, but yeah, so what do you think of the villain in this story? What's her name? um
Um, is it Mrs. Creel?
yes, Mrs. Scary Skull Lady.
Yeah. Um, so she's very creepy.
What?
She's a woman who's done so much maintenance and plastic surgery on herself that she So she doesn't have her real hair anymore. She wears contacts to make her eyes blue. She doesn't have a real nose, so she wears a fake nose and just has like a nose hole. Um, she wears dentures, so she has perfect teeth. And she's just like creepy and gross and weird when she takes all that stuff off. But then she's also creepy and gross and weird when she's wearing all of it because she's like a horrible person. Um, we get a very flowers in the attic backstory for
Yes.
her
Yes, we do.
where she like moved in with this couple and poisoned their children with antifreeze and framed the wife and then moved on to the husband and then killed him for his money.
And it was messed up too because the wife took pity on her and brought her in, like just
Yeah.
as a good person.
Well, she met the family because she stole money at their charity benefit.
Yeah.
And then they went to her and they were like, "Oh, we understand why you were stealing the money. Let us take care of you." And then she moved in and did all of this to them anyways.
Right. And it's so fucking terrible, right? And like she sleeps with the husband, and the husband is like immediately remorseful, and right when he's and right when that happens, she murders him. Like it's so there's so many layers to her, and like, and this might mean
Well, and then yeah, keep going.
I would say this might be me projecting, but I feel like this might be a slight commentary on maybe the Kardashians and all the work they've had done to each other. But that might just be me projecting. But like,
Okay, so I haven't read other Catwoman comic books. I have actually seen the Halle Berry movie multiple times.
uh huh,
And I was gonna say that the villain in that was like a pharmaceutical company that was making like cosmetics that would like poison women or something, and that the leader of that company was very much like this character. Sort of a woman who'd been driven like crazy by societal pressures and like an obsession with looking beautiful.
yes, played by Sharon Stone, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Who could have probably been 10 women's. I mean, who probably could have been Catwoman like maybe 10 years before. I could easily see her being like instead of Michelle Pfeiffer. Like I could easily see her being Catwoman too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it's just it's and you know what they have a gay character in here. I didn't even know he was gay until like she said something maybe 8 issues in. Funny how that works, huh?
Yeah.
Huh? Like
Well, I mean, you maybe suspected it because most of the other guys that met her, she had a moment where she like tried to seduce them
right,
in order to like gain their favor or manipulate them. And we never see that with this guy. And you can assume that's because they're friends, but you can also understand that it's because it wouldn't work on him.
and he did say he got kicked out when he was 11, so maybe that had something to do with it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Why he was kicked out. Also, so we was talking about with the new social justice warriors in Marvel, right? How like there's ways to update stuff without it making it seem like terrible.
Yeah.
I think this comic book does a really good job of that, right? Because like there's Instagram and Twitter and hashtags and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it very feel much of the world and not something that's like forced in there. What did you think, Amanda? Do you think differently? What?
No, no, I absolutely loved the updating. It definitely feels like Catwoman is like a 30 something year old woman living in 2018.
Yes,
A lot of the pop culture elements came in very small doses from the younger characters, which makes sense.
right,
Um, like it would not make sense for Catwoman to be running her own Instagram account,
exactly.
but it would make sense for like I don't know, for like some teenage fan to run one, maybe. I could totally see that being a storyline.
Yeah,
Uh,
and
so yeah, no, I thought the updating was great. Also like the updating, like the fashion was all perfect also. That was another way it was updated.
again, it just is. This is how you do it. I think DC don't have me quote unquote as diverse characters. I think or at least they don't talk about it as much. But I've always found like the way they handle it way better, because I
Hmm.
feel like, Carlos being gay is not like part of his character. I mean, like, it's part of his character, but it's not what defines him. You know what I'm saying? Or like the girls being like, young, it don't really define them. Like, it's a part of their character, but it's not like the focus. And I feel like what Marvel would have did was this would have been the focus. Like, this would have been like,
It would have been a very special issue, right?
yes, it would have been a very special issue, and they just will try to replicate that over and over again. Yes. So, this story doesn't get completed in these two volumes, does it?
Um, no, no, she's still is it Hermanos Villa? She's still not in Gotham. She's still out on her own.
But not just like above that. It seems like um with Krill and a lot of the stuff that's happening, like none of this is finished. It feels very old school, right? Like these are separated into like 5 issue chunks, right?
Hmm.
But it doesn't feel like a net like most comics are written for the trade. This doesn't feel like it was written for the trade.
No, no, it definitely feels it feels like old television used to, where each issue kind of has a little bit of a beginning, middle, end, and then every couple of issues together kind of resolve one conflict, but like it could just kind of keep going at this pace.
Yeah, exactly. So like nothing is really resolved by the end of this, and like it ends with a annual about Immortal Man, which I don't even know what they like. I'm trying to think, why is Immortal Man even in this? And
Yeah, I mean I wasn't familiar with him, but
he's supposed to be a good guy. He's supposed to be like the opposite of Vandal Savage, who's like the bad guy Immortal. So
right.
I understand why this Immortal, like why Immortal Man, who's supposed to be a good guy, lesser known than Vandal Savage, but been around just as long, why he up and killed like three like teenage girls. But but yep, it's there. What did you think of that particular like that the annual that particular issue?
Um, I thought it was I thought it was really interesting. It definitely had a little bit of a different vibe than the other stories. Which I mean, I guess comes from it trying to be like a standalone. I I feel like it was also missing a little bit of information. Like I didn't realize, like I didn't know who Immortal Man was. I didn't recognize what was happening until it was explained later.
Right.
So I didn't realize, like I think you were supposed to realize when the girls see the spear and decide to steal it, you're supposed to be like, oh, I know what that spear is. I know what's going to happen. I mean, I think maybe if I went back and reread it, it would sit better. But that was the only one where I really felt like I was missing information.
What do you think about the main villain in that story? And it's not Immortal Man. It's the chick, in my opinion. She's like
It's
the
Amanda.
yeah, it's a man. Yeah, it's a. I didn't want to say it. I
No,
wanted
it's fine. It's fine. Most of us are mid-level villains,
to.
mid-tier minions.
Do you feel like you're a mid-level villain, Amanda?
Sometimes.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, what's even worse is sometimes I get treated like that even if I haven't done anything yet.
I got a very Rebel Wilson vibe from Amanda.
Yeah, for sure. If they made this, if they turn that last issue into a movie, yeah, that would be Rebel Wilson.
Do you
Um,
think Catwoman murdered her? I don't think Catwoman murdered her, but I think Catwoman fucked her up.
yes, yes. And actually, that's something that would be interesting to talk about is Catwoman's kind of moral code.
Right.
She, I mean, like she moves to this city, and like I just said, what's worse than being a mid-tier villain is just having people treat you that way no matter what. She moves to a new town, and the first thing that happens is the resident organized crime decides that they need to like send her a greeting, and she's like, I haven't even done anything yet, asshole. Like, I was here to take care of my sister. and like get over this breakup. I was not here to like ruin your shit. Like I don't care.
They almost bring what the bad
They
guy.
bring her into it. Yeah.
Yeah, like they almost bring their own misery upon themselves for even like evolving her,
Hmm.
especially when to be left out of it.
Yeah. And I feel like so much of it is I feel like that happens. And then like the story with the penguin was the penguin shows up and he's like, oh, hey, I want you to steal this thing. And it sets off like a whole other chain of events. And Catwoman was just hanging out on the roofs, as one does when they're brooding over Batman. And there's an explosion, and she's like, I guess I have to go check that out. Right?
Right.
Like she, people are bringing a lot of what they expect from her to all of their encounters.
It's all.
Uh,
It's almost like how women get treated, how some powerful women.
that,
Go ahead. Hello.
oh no, I was going to say, I think that's also sort of like a feminist thing is that women deal a lot with the expectations that are placed on them.
Right.
And sort of having her operate within a world where those expectations are defining her and kind of like taking some of her agency away is like makes it like very relatable. I think that there's a sense of like she's just trying to live her own life here and shit keeps a certain percentage of her life is always allocated to just like cleaning up messes that other people bring to her in a way that you don't really see in like Batman or Superman stories.
Right. And like she's trying to change, but people won't allow her to change. Like she's this one thing, and she can only be this one thing, and she can never be anything else.
Yeah, and she's also not really the sort of villain like she's not the sort of villain that blows up a Ferris wheel to get someone else's attention.
Right.
She's the sort of villain that would, like let a cop fall out a window one or two stories before she caught him just to, mess with him. But she isn't really out there to cause trouble, and it's so it's so surprising to me that I'm like, oh, this is what we mean by her being Catwoman, right? Like she'll push shit off the table and then roll around for attention, but she's not like actually going to kill you. Usually.
You know what? You know what? Though? You know what? I think we're bad people. I think we're the wrong people to talk about cats because clearly we have a bias towards cats. Like
That's true.
yeah, like oh, they put something off the it's fine. I just clean it up. No, no, she's not bad. I promise. Like, so what did you think of the art? We touched on it a bit. What do you think of Joelle Jones' art?
I really loved the art in all of this.
Yeah.
I thought that, so in addition to a lot of the details being really compelling, just like things like everyone's clothes and backgrounds and things like that, I also thought that the action was really, really clearly laid out.
Yes, it
It
was.
may have been a little bit decompressed in some parts, but like I really understood when I was looking at the action scenes. I was like, oh, she grabbed his arm and then she punched his neck and then she like flipped him over and then she like jumped over this thing. Like I really got the sequential of what was going
The
on.
the motorcycle chase to save Carlos in the back of that truck was really good and really great,
Yeah.
and I could
Yeah.
follow every bit of what she was trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like in the second volume of this, right?
Hmm.
She has a lot of fill-in artists because it's hard, right? But I think they do a very good job of matching her art pretty well. You know what I'm saying? At least the same type of tone.
Yes. Yes. They definitely get a very similar style. And I think it also helps. They didn't change the colorist, right?
No, I don't think
It's
so.
still, was it Laura Allred?
Yes.
Okay, she was one of the colorists. It does look like they brought in a few other colorists to help. But I was going to say having the same colorist or inker over different artists can also really help it feel the same way.
Right.
Um,
So I'm just gonna read off the other artists. I think this all of them is Fernando Blanco,
mhm.
Elena Casagrande, Scott Golinsky, Hugo Portis, and John Timms. That,
And actually, I know of Elena Casagrande because she worked on a really fun book called Suicide Risk,
okay.
um, which now that I think of it, if we already read some Mike Carey Hellblazer stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was gonna say Suicide Risk was very fun because it was I mean, Mike Carey's a man, so he wrote it from a male point of view, but all of the really cool, important characters were the women.
Right.
And Elena Casagrande got to draw like tons of really awesome, powerful women in amazing costumes. So she would be, I mean, she's a perfect pick for Catwoman as well. Like that's totally, absolutely her style.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So, Amanda, is there anything else you would like to say about this book before we wrap up here? I think we covered it pretty well.
Um, okay, one more thing I do want to
Okay.
bring up.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Um, okay, my I absolutely loved like the Guardian of the Reliquary.
Yes. Yes.
Can we talk about how I wish that she like I want her to be a long-term Catwoman villain. Like a vaguely Egyptian themed woman with like Anubis inspired Doberman pets who uses like magic and shit is like a perfect foil for like Catwoman, right?
Yes, it is.
I would love to see that be like a long-term thing. Catwoman didn't kill her, I don't think.
No, she didn't.
So she could come back.
She clearly can come back, and like I said, yeah, I like that character a lot. It just, I might keep reading this, and that might be the best compliment I can give it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she was very like respectful, you know, like, oh, like I understand, like if you can kick my ass, maybe you can handle this. Um
Also,
at-
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
well, and the dog thing is perfect, right? Just like
Yeah. So like, can't name a dog woman though because well, there's reasons for that. Number one, that's a stupid name. Number two, well, you can never mind. You can call her other stuff. But like, what I liked about that scene was how vicious Catwoman can be.
yes.
Because like she mounts her and busts her head with that fucking
Yeah.
and she was about to do it again till they said, "All right, you won." I like shit. Was Selena just was gonna keep doing it till she just didn't get up no more?
No, I mean it's definitely I
Because
mean we're
that's a
talking about
murder
she has like
position.
a
That's a murder position. Go ahead.
yeah. No, I mean we talked about how Selena mostly has this sort of like ethics of messing with people but not really killing them, and also that she's got sort of this almost like aristocratic air about herself. She does not fight clean though.
No,
She fights efficiently. She is like, you get this over with as like the most noble way to end a fight is as quickly as possible. And if that means that like I have to fight dirty to end it in 30 seconds instead of 30 minutes, we're going to do it. And I kind of respect that about her.
it's funny too because this is very much the Catwoman from like Tom King run, and what I mean by that is because like certain characters take on different traits when different creators write them. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? But this very much like if you, well, coming up next year, maybe like starting next year at some point. Tom King's run on Batman and his Catwoman and his Batman, honestly, is fucking great. And like Selena is great in that. And this is very much that Selena.
See, that makes me want to read. Honestly, that's another really great compliment is that this book makes me want to read the Batman run up to this so that I can see the relationship that she was walking away from.
I do have one complaint though.
Yeah.
I don't like the costume.
Really?
Here's the thing. I like it's similar to the costume I do like,
Okay.
but not enough because I prefer my Catwoman with goggles,
Okay.
and this seems more like Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman a little bit. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
all black leather, right? So it's all black leather, but this one seems a little less practical, which is funny because it's written by a woman and drawn by a woman. But this one seems slightly less practical than what she's been wearing for like the last 10 to 15 years, which is basically like a spandex like tactical suit with like
Mm-hmm.
goggles and shit and very little ears. You know what I'm saying? This
Yeah.
the cat in this suit is very like pronounced.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's this giant ring in the middle of her suit. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what the hell is that for? There's some type of fetish thing that Joelle Jones is into that I don't know about.
Oh, maybe a little bit. I mean, it's the zipper
That
for her to take her
okay, so
like
zipper. Okay,
yeah, the zipper, it goes up to under her chin, so like the top part of her suit she can unzip.
okay.
So she can take just like the cowl and the sleeves off and still be wearing like the black leather outfit.
But it's weird that it's like in the front like that. It's so pronounced. You know what I'm saying? I don't
Yeah.
like again. It's a small nick. Oh, it's a small nitpick. I don't hate it, but I do
Hmm.
prefer my Catwoman. I prefer the Jim Lee Catwoman with the small ears and like the hood and like the
Okay.
goggles.
I will say I like that you can see her eyes because her eyes are very green.
Yes, they are.
And I also like that you can see her eyes because in the first arc where there were the copycats, that made it obvious that it wasn't her.
Yeah.
So okay. I could see that. I could see it's funny because I was a little bit surprised that she still wears heels.
Yeah, I noticed that. I mean, I like it, but I know from a woman's point of view, maybe not. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, so here's the thing. As a woman, if the heels are cute enough, you'll do it, right?
well,
So like especially with the Guardian of the Reliquary, she also wore heels. And I look at them and I went, "Really? Really you're going to fight her wearing those heels?" And I was like, "Honestly, those heels are really cute. If I could get my feet in them, I would never take them off either." So like they're like having the sufficient level of
it,
fashion to warrant the comfort sacrifice totally makes sense at some
well,
level.
it's funny about Catwoman heels because I noticed the same thing too, right? But this is gonna sound funny. They was almost like tactical heels.
Hmm.
Like they just wasn't like straight up like stilettos or like really pointy.
Right.
They was almost functional.
Yeah.
Like they were almost boot like just with like a slight like a higher heel than usual. But besides that, they were almost boot like. Right? Am I wrong? That's how.
No, no, you're right. They had a what we would call a stacked heel,
Yes.
and it looked like some serious tread on the bottom, so they weren't like completely impractical.
So like right, it's a woman, right, and a woman drew this. A woman designed this suit, right? It
Yeah.
made sense, right? She's like, I
Hmm.
want her to look cute, but I also
Yep.
need this to make at least a little bit of sense. Not much, but
Yeah.
just enough.
Yeah.
See, see, this show is nothing but this show, if not nothing else, is at least progressive. But no, I actually did like the heels. I did like that she had heels because I think, for good reasons. Like, comic books are moving away with females with heels, like for good reason.
Hmm.
So it's always nice to see it every once in a while. You know what I'm saying? Just, make a comeback at least for like an arc or two.
Well, and it also it just reinforces the it reinforces that aspect of her character that she does care about things being pretty and looking good.
Because she's a goddamn cat.
Right. And like other characters, it would make sense for them to be more practically focused. So using clothing as a way to build your character is so efficient and so good. And I love it when we read these stories that have pretty clothes in them.
You're such a girl. This is.
Sometimes I am, yeah. Well, in real life, I'm a very practical person, so I really like looking at pictures of stuff like
I'm
this.
laughing at you, right? But honestly, I'm the same way. Like me and you always talk about clothes in like these comments and how like happy it makes us for some reason. So like
Hmm.
I really look. I'm not judging, okay? Because I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah.
So Amanda, I think that wraps up this episode. I think it was a pretty good episode. We touched everything. We touched on the plague that's going on outside. You know, Captain Trips is coming for us all. We're all gonna die. Then the rest of us are gonna have a dream either about an old lady or like some cowboy dude in Vegas. You know what I'm saying? And you gotta choose which way you gonna go.
I'm going to wear the cutest heels I can find while I walk out into the cornfield.
Yes, yes, yes. Only Stephen King book I've ever read. That book messed me up. So, so Amanda, what are we reading in a couple of weeks?
So the next thing you picked out for us was By Chance or Providence by Becky Cloonan,
Okay.
which is something I mean, like, I have absolutely no context for this one, but I think I had challenged you after Alex Ross month. I had said that we'd read a lot of books by men.
Yes.
And so I challenged you to pick out a couple of things with female writers. And so we did Catwoman just now. And this is another book that you picked out.
Yeah, like I just came across I didn't want to do like people that we've done before. Like, I didn't want to do like, Marjorie Liu, like, I didn't want to do anybody that we've done before. I wanted to pick people that like I've never really heard of, but books that still look kind of cool. So like this one looked pretty cool just from the cover and like the preview, like the first couple of pages. So I'm flying blind on this one. So
Fun. This is going to be fun.
yeah. So Amanda, if they want to talk to us about Catwoman Hills, where can they reach us?
We are on Twitter as Comic Book Club 52.
Mm-hmm.
They could email us, comicbookclub52@gmail.com, or they could find us on Facebook as the Comic Book Club.
Alrighty. And like, yeah, guys, I just want to let you know, I don't know why I'm talking about this now. Look, we were just gonna do this thing about Wonder Woman when the movie came out, and now since the movie been pushed back, everything
It's just gonna have to be a Xena revival thing now instead.
look. If they had Xena comics, you bet your sweet ass we would read them. But anyway, thank you guys.
I'm hitting the IDW website right now. I'm sure they've got them.
Oh, Xena and Hercules. Oh, that'd be. And they got like all the likenesses like right. So like you got Bruce Campbell in there and shit. Oh, that'd be great. Anyway, this has come completely off the rails. So, all right. So guys, thank you for joining us. I'm Jamil Payne.
I'm Amanda Coleman.
And we are out.